twang that he's got going on there. Madison Bumgarner, I'm telling you, man, he sounds like a true American.
Okay. Back to reality and sports and all that good stuff.
Hey, that was still reality.
Yeah. Madison Bumgarner, is he everything people are saying about him right now, is it legit? All his greatness, his Sandy Koufax-like, all that stuff, is it warranted? Please,
sorry?
God, don't say yes. Is all the praise for Bumgarner warranted? Like comparing him to Koufax and saying he's one of the best postseason pitchers ever, is it warranted? And please, God, don't say yes.
Here's the one thing. I think everybody ignores the fact that Babe Ruth headlined, I think it was a trio of World Series games before he was even 23. But everybody remembers him as a big bopper. But Baumgartner, God, he's been so lights out in the playoffs and the postseason here. It's hard not to love the guy. You want to put him on, that upper echelon. I think he's got 25 years old. But to bring him up with, the likes of Sandy Koufax and all that. When it comes to the big stage, yeah. But overall, in the perspective of their careers, that's another story. I'm not going to necessarily throw the guy in the Hall of Fame, but just look at what he's done. The guy's barely allowed, a run a game during the postseason. So that's really impressive.
With, Bumgarner, now the comparison is Bumgarner to Kershaw. What would you say as far as that comparison goes?
Well, in terms of the regular season, you got to look at Kershaw, but when it comes down to Baumgartner, he's the bulldog. Everybody was talking about Jake Peavy. He's always been called the bulldog. He gets underneath his own skin a little bit too much. That was a guy where, verbally and on television, you've seen, several arguments between him and A.J. Pierzynski when they were with the White Sox. And then you see, you can basically trace, maybe not necessarily all of his big hits, but, a lot of the moments where, he allows a base hit or an inning gets extended because of something, a lot of the times, he's yelling at himself, and so everybody's always calling him, Jake the Bulldog, he's always out there, he's aggressive, and always riled up, but the Bulldog comes down to being durable, being the guy that's going to be able to go out there and throw a couple days, right after he just got done throwing starting a full game through a complete game. Just how amazing to see him come out and do what he did. And actually, now that I come to think about it, I believe Baumgartner's only allowed one run the entire, his entire postseason career. His ERA is under, a run. It's about 0.52 or something along those lines. That's just unbelievable.
Okay, is there a bigger misconception than when people say Big Game James for James Shields? Okay, this guy in the playoffs is 3-6 with a 5.46 ERA. Just because he pitches, is it, because of that one game in the World Series against the Philadelphia Phillies that he's considered big game because he threw a shot, 5 2/3, 7 hits, 0 runs. He's a big game pitcher. Or is it just, I don't know what it is. Why is he Big Game James? He's more like big game, middle of the road or crap.
You got to set that. You got to think about that a little bit before you start calling him out. But no, he's just one of those guys where when it comes down to the regular season, he is Big Game James. He's going to go out there and win you that big division game. He's going to go out there and get you over 200 innings a season. He's done it. At least the last 4 seasons in a row. Go ahead.
Okay, but just because he's giving you 200 innings, that doesn't mean he's big game. Big game is.
Oh, you got it, dude. No, you got it all the way there, Bob. It's all about just, when it comes to the postseason, I think at that point, he's already worn out, and I think that's probably to kind of get off subject here a little bit. I think that's a big part of, so many guys this year, getting Tommy John surgery. You got to think these guys are growing up. You know, whether it's one of these warm weather states or one of the warmer weather regions, but they're throwing year round. You know, from the time they're born, so they're constantly being trained to become a professional athlete, to be that stud lefty pitcher. And by the time they're 14 years old, these guys need Tommy John surgery. And then you got guys like, Brian Wilson, where he's already had, 2. And there's several guys throughout the league, that have had, a number of Tommy John surgeries. But a lot of it becomes, I believe comes from overuse. And that's where I think James comes in, where, he is your guy during the regular season. That's where his arm's able to fit. And it has been, if you want to put it this way, stretched out to last that long. But then when it comes to the postseason, he just hasn't been able to do it.
I mean, this is the other complaint. I know I'm not the only one to bring up the big name James thing, but this is the other thing. And I'm not going to give you specific circumstances, but I recall Matt Garza having a big game against the, I believe, White Sox for Tampa Bay. David Price was in relief. I believe Scott Kashmir was one of their better pitchers. It just boggles my mind that this guy is considered big game. And of all play, I get it if he's in New York and his performances get overblown or whatever. But in Tampa Bay, I don't understand how his performances just got blown out of proportion. Like he's just some legend of the postseason, which he's not. And he's an average pitcher at best in the regular season.
Well, I think that's exactly how it gets blown out of proportion. Is the fact that they don't really have a lot of high priced players. They don't really have a ton of fans, and when a guy like that is able to be a standout player. For instance, the Marlins are on their way up right now, but Giancarlo Stanton has been above and beyond. One of the best players on their team, next to Fernandez, who just came up. But when those guys are so huge, it's almost like a college or high school atmosphere, where everything's rah-rah, when it comes down, because you feel more connected when when it's a smaller market like that. And I think when you do have that smaller market and you do have a top performer like that, everybody's behind them. The national media market, you can call them out of town stupid if you'd like. But, a lot of times I think, they kind of hear and, read the local coverage. And, it's just, that's how things tend to kind of roll over, and you kind of get the snowball effect. And, the legend becomes much more bigger than the actual performer. And so that's just kind of how that stuff winds up, man. That's how it goes.
Well, we're going to go ahead and take our first break of hour number 2 here on the Bob Sullivan Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com with John Maloris. When we come back, we'll talk more about the World Series, off-season moves, and also I will take a couple shots at Dirk Chapman from the Omaha World Herald because he's an idiot. Right here on LateNightSportsRadio.com.
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Welcome back to the Bob Sullivan Show here on the LateNightSportsRadio.com.
Where they play awful music all the time. Dude, who do I need to speak to? Can I get you like a list of songs or artists or something?
Hey, Johnny, don't be an a-hole. Keith is the music chooser. I like that song.
I'm sure you do.
Keith,
you probably like Cage the Elephant too, right?
Keith, defend your music choice.
Hey, look, that is a feel-good tune right there. Gets the listeners pumped up coming into the segment.
Getting pumped up? All right. I'll get with that. Keith's a good guy, you know what I mean? So I'm going to trust you a little bit on this, Keith, but I'm still going with it, man. Carly Jepsen's got to go.
Hey, when we started this thing, I said, you know what, just pick out, if you have any songs, I need to know what to play for your opening intro and any rejoins. And Bob was the one that came out with, how about you start out with Call Me Maybe? And I was like, really? Are you kidding?
Whoa. Hey, I also had the idea of playing Victory by, what's his name?
Yeah,
Puff Daddy,
which we couldn't get to work in the beginning, so it didn't happen tonight. But.
And I also had the idea.
You guys, here, listen. All you gotta do is go to Queens of the Stone Age. You can find, a 45-second lead-in. Better living through chemicals, and you're all good, man. That's all you need.
John, you clearly do not know the podcasting game because you cannot play that type of music without getting sued up the wazoo for playing that.
Oh, come on. Just a few seconds, man. You're allowed to do that. This 15-second little clip, little snippet.
Talk over it. We could make that
Listen, okay, bottom line, guys. John, if you criticize Keith's music again, you're going to get your ass kicked off the show.
Oh, no. Bob, you got to come to Chicago to do that at least, please.
All right. Well, I'll put you in Lake Michigan, if that's the case.
Hey, I'm really familiar with Lake Superior, so let's go that way.
Okay. Okay, hirings and firings.
A lot of that going on, huh?
Yeah, it's weird. Joe Madden leaves Tampa Bay. Everybody in L.A. starts to, quote-unquote, cream themselves, thinking he's going to get hired. Andrew Friedman says, no, we're going to stick with Mattingly. And the Cubs seem to be the front runner for Joe